Hey guys, this is Echo from Pytes here. Allow us several minutes to get everything ready. We will start the webinar soon, in 5 minutes.
A few moments later.
Today's host will be Jonathan. He will share the slides soon.
Next slide. Perfect. And like I said, we've taken information from the field and created the second generation here. This new battery here has a more updated state of charge readout and IoT interface, which allows us to do monitoring of the battery's charge, discharge, where it's at, what its capacity has been, and what it has done throughout its lifetime. We also have Phoenix terminals to allow us to install bus bars, creating the installation and putting them in parallel a lot more efficiently and safe with that Phoenix connector. Another update here, we've made the battery smaller and lighter. So that's some of the major components here. And we also installed a heating pad into this battery, which we're very excited about. So it allows us to kind of install this battery here in temperatures where it is typically colder or below freezing. LFP chemistry does not typically like that. So we have gone and taken that information and created a heating pad built within the V5 battery. And on the next slide, this is what comes in with the battery when you order the V5. So it comes with the bus bars that I was just speaking about. These are 300 amp rated bus bars for the positive and negative anode and dynode of the battery system here. It also comes with a grounding wire as well as a communications wire for us to daisy chain the closed loop communications within each of the battery systems in a stack. These are some accessories that are also come with the V5 that you can order extra. These are extra components. The hub, which is a great piece because it allows closed loop communication within multiple groups of batteries. We also have our battery combiner where we hook up 300 amps and 600 amps rated battery combiners to hook up these sets of batteries in parallel with the inverter system. We also have a home run communication cable, which will run from the master battery to the inverter interface. And then we also have home run cables to land these groups of batteries into the battery combiner as well. Next slide, please. Awesome. Now I'm going to go over some features. So one thing that's very unique and really great about this design here is with our bus bars rated for 300 amps, we're allowed to take one whole stack and directly hook it up into a Sol-Ark 15K. This is great because it cuts out the need for a third-party battery combiner and just allows the ease of communication to be so much more simpler when you're using a Sol-Ark 15K with one of our stacks of batteries. Some other things to note here, like I said, we have the continuous charge and discharge of 75 amps with a firmware update to the battery system. This allows us to actually charge and discharge 100 amps. So we can pair that up and release every battery to have 100 amps DC into the system. Now, also notating here, we have some peaks. So for within 3 minutes, our batteries can actually peak up to 101 to 120 amps DC. And within 15 seconds, powering a motor or some other DC rated engine, we can power these batteries up to 120 to 180 amps DC within that 15-second mark. Next slide. Perfect. And one of these key features that I was explaining a little bit about is our heating pad. The heating pad solution will allow us to install these batteries in more harsh environments. Northeast, Northwest, even the Midwest. These parts of the country do get pretty cold at times, especially during the winter months. So having a battery that can withstand harsher conditions is going to be a great for those regions, as well as any other northern region or colder regions here. The battery, like I mentioned, is within the battery pack itself. So it's inside of the V5 battery. So this is a DC operating heating pad. No EC is needed for it to actually work. Compared to our competitors, a lot of our competitors, they need AC to have the heating pads work within the battery. So some more details here about our heating pad. It does take 170 watts of power. That is the maximum output of power that it will need to keep the batteries heating. And this temperature is calculated by the BMS inside of the V5. So when the V5 reads that the temperature of the ambient cells are below 41 degrees Fahrenheit, that's when the heating pad is going to kick on. And it'll kick on until the battery reaches 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and then it'll kick off. And also the maximum threshold where the temperature will not work for the heating pad is -4 degrees Fahrenheit. So anything above that, the heating pad will work. Some also notes here and the alarms. So if the heating pad is running for 30 minutes and there's no change in the ambient temperature of the cells, this will cause an alarm. And same thing if the heating pad is running for 15 minutes, it'll also cause an alarm if there is no change in temperature as well. Now, in protections here with the heating pad, because this is a heating device with LFP chemistry, the longest it'll run for 3 hours at a time. And when it's frequently being powered for hours at a time, it will turn on and off, saving the life within the batteries, but also as well not over utilizing the heat to hurt the batteries in any which way. So we're really designed this around safety, efficiency, and conveniency. Next slide. Perfect. Now this is another thing that we're really excited about too. With the IoT interface, we're able to integrate a Wi-Fi dongle that will allow us to do third-party monitoring of what the battery bank is doing externally and remotely through a computer, through a tablet, which is really great. So we can get some more information about the batteries, as well as every interface that you have, you'll have access to knowing how to charge your batteries, what your batteries are doing at night, what your batteries are doing during the day, and having the ability to log this information as well and go back and look at it for future use, to understanding what your usage is and really dialing in your battery banks for more efficient cycling. Next slide. Perfect. This is something that we have also created to be an upgrade to our other existing battery. Our other existing battery, the eBox 48100R, we could stack those batteries in groups of 8. Here with the V5, we can do stacks of 14, which is great. Overall efficiency, overall more power. It's going to allow you to use these systems in more operations and in more circumstances where you need larger amounts of storage. So for this, each rack of 14, we can daisy chain them together with the Cat5 cable, so they're able to communicate 14 as one unit, which is great. So that gives us a total of just over 71 kilowatt hours of one whole unit for one whole cable. Anything more than 14 units, we will have to use the hub, which is an extra accessory. But this will allow us to use closed loop communications with up to 6 groups of that 14, having us come to a total of using in one bank over 430 kilowatt hours of closed loop communication, one unit. So that's some great benefits there for some bigger, larger projects. Next slide. Perfect. So this is kind of an in-depth of how our cells are communicating with the BMS unit. We use flexible printed circuit boards to communicate and have each cell communicate directly with the BMS, but it's not just communicating what its charge level is for balancing. It's also communicating that ambient temperature we were talking about, so that we can turn on the heating pad if needed. Another thing about this is that it's really high resolubility, very high security, and the connections with these makes it a lot more efficient as far as the communications go from the cells to the BMS. Now, here are some of our enclosures for our V5 we're really excited about. We have our standard rack mount, very similar to our other batteries. We can stack up to 6 of these batteries together. And like I mentioned earlier, we can run the bus bar throughout 100 amps maximum, or excuse me, 300 amps maximum to allow us to directly hook into a Sol-Ark 15K unit. That rack mount unit is, of course, indoor rated only. We don't want to put those outside at all. We want to keep those in a nice, safe area, ideally next to the inverter system. Now, for a more sealed unit, for an indoor unit, we have the R-Box IC. This is going to be in 2, 4, and 6 configurations of where we can safely have the battery in a cabinet closed. You know, if there's any potential kids or cats or pets running around, we want to keep these things closed off for safety reasons as well. So we have that ability to do that with the R-Box IC. Now, for an outdoor rated solution, we do have the V-Box OC. This will be able to parallel 4 batteries maximum outside in an outdoor rated cabinet, which will, you know, with the heating pad already installed, will allow us to install these outside in these colder climate areas. So these are the enclosures, and we're really excited to bring these to the market as well. Awesome. So with our closed loop communication, you know, we've been working really hard with our partners to always have a more efficient communications between the batteries and our inverter partners. Some of our inverter partners out there, Lux Power, obviously Sol-Ark's our biggest one, Victron, Home Grid, SMA. Those are some of our bigger closed loop, but we also have open loop communications partners as well. So we're able to open loop communicate with Outback, Schneider, Midnight, and many other brands. All right, perfect. Now this is a video, so this is a video of an installation. Perfect. Now this is a video, guys, of kind of how an installation works. There was music with it, but I'm just kind of going to just talk over it for now. So this is a stack here of 3 of the V5s. This is the grounding cable that comes with every unit. We're just hooking those up. You know, safety is a big thing with us. This just makes the installation here even a little bit more safer, which we are always all about. And here we go with our anodes. We are taking out the Phoenix connections and then installing our bus bar solutions. The bus bars, both positive and negative, will come as well with every V5. So we're hooking this up in parallel, positives to positives, negatives to negatives. Another thing here, we're taking our negative connections and hooking up our negative bus bars, paralleling the system all together. So everything is balanced within the system. And then we are running our positive leads at the top and negative leads at the bottom, cycling the system correctly and taking that to the inverter. Also here, this is a demonstration on how the communication cables are hooked up so that the BMSs are communicating with one another. And then we are running and connecting our battery cables right directly into the Sol-Ark inverter safely. Perfect. And then this is the home run communication wire that will hook directly into the Sol-Ark inverter. And then lastly, we will hit the dip switch to make sure that the BMS knows that it's communicating with the Sol-Ark inverter. Turning on the system and then pushing the power button from the master battery, which will then initiate the system and turn on the rest of the batteries as well. And there it is, powering up. And then once we turn on the battery system, we then turn on the inverter system. And there's just a few things that we need to go in and program. Obviously, the closed loop communications is programming the inverter system itself, but there's always some things that we need to change, such as how many batteries, what is the total battery bank right there. It's at 300 amp hours because there are 3 of the V5s. And right there, that is showing that we are communicating directly with the inverter system, which is what we want to see. And that's the V5.
Is the V5 available now?
Yes, the V5 is available
Okay.
now. Absolutely. Here are some in the field installations of the V5. This is a stack of 6 batteries being paired with the Sol-Ark 15 kW inverter, or maybe the 8 kW. So very cool here. You know, for this installation, we are stacking 6 and we're splitting this up into 2 groups here, and then coming directly into the system. Perfect. We're really happy about our certifications too. We've been really working hard on this. Currently have our CE certification as well as our IEC 62 619. Also, we have UL 9540 with the Sol-Ark 15K and 12K inverter. We also have our UL 9540A fire test safety code, allowing us to install in even the most strict jurisdictions. Also have the UL 9573. And lastly, we have the UN 38.3 certification as well for the V5 battery. Awesome. So here we're going to talk a little bit about pricing. This pricing comes from our distribution partners. This is our MAP pricing. So for the V5, it's just under 2K for a 5.12 kilowatt hour battery with a heating pad, closed loop communications. This is really a great deal, and we're very excited to launch it to the market. Our brackets here, very similar to the rack mounts like we were just showing in some of the examples there. Each battery needs one of those racks. So they are just under $50, which is really affordable, and a great way to save on some money as well. Sometimes paralleling these batteries and even having them stick together with some of our competitors is quite expensive. So we're just trying to get that product to you in a good standing price. And also our outdoor cabinet is here, which is just under $1,500, which is a great deal, all aluminum, so it's pretty light. and very efficient. Everything is paralleled inside of that, so there's no external things needed, just the home run cables from the inverter to this cabinet.
It's what I want.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yep. And then one last good point is it has the built-in heating pad. So allowed to be installed in more harsh environments that are susceptible to colder weather. Anywhere northwest, northeast, Midwest, all of these places do allow, especially if you're installing outside, limitations with the LFP chemistry. With the heating pad, we're getting in front of it and trying to challenge that.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Of course. Thank you guys for coming. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.